Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Jatapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangolang Hayate Girim Yat Kripatamahang Bande Sri Gurun Dinatarinam Guru Gaura Gandharva Govindangringanai Saha Vande Prasadato Yesham Savaramba Sabankara Gaura Vag Vigraham Vande Gaurangam Gauravairavam Gaura Sankirtanomatam Gaura Karunya Sundaram Guru Rupa Harim Gauram Radha Ruchi Ruchavratam Nityam Nomi Navadipe Nama Kirtana Nartanai Adadanas Tidam Jantayar Idam Jache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padambo Jadulisham Janma Janmani Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Himabhidivyachavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Srimad Prabhupadambo Jamarupebhyo Namo Namaha. So we are reading from the Chaitanyashtakam of Srila Rupa Goswami, the verse in rasoddāmā kāmārbuda-madhura-dhāmojjvala-tanur. How beautiful is the form. Like 10 million cupids in full-blown cupidity, saying madhura-dhāmojjvala, dhamma ujjvala. Ujjvala means brilliantly shining, resplendent. And looking at this beautiful figure, it seems that millions of beautiful cupids are combined into one. In its most proud position and its highest glaze, his figure seemed like that. Then jati namutanksha starani kara vidyoti basana, that beautiful figure, and in the garb of a sannyasi, the red robe, utanksha starani kara vidyoti basana, and the dress also seen, modified by the luster of his body, just as the luster of the sun glaze. The dress has also imbibed the glaze of his lustrous body. In this way, we find him. So, as we think of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Svarnakoti Darpa Nava Dehu Varna Gauravam, like 10 million brilliant shining mirrors of gold. But we're told that radiance, Radha Bhava Dyuti, the Kanti, the radiance of Radha Bhava, of the heart, of being enveloped by the heart of Srimati Radharani, which Gurudev said is like a lighthouse of Krishna Prem. The radiance is making his saffron garments glow. Right? And it makes us think of the when Mahaprabhu met with Ramananda on the banks of the Godavari in South India. It was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya who realized that in the past he sometimes made fun of Ramananda, like, he's a devotee. Now he's realizing he's a devotee, like of the highest order, of the highest type, because Sarvabhauma was upgraded by Mahaprabhu when he thought to upgrade this young sannyasi He thought maybe prematurely, naively took sannyas, this beautiful young 24-year-old. We're approaching the sannyas of Mahaprabhu near the end of the week, the Makara Sankranti. So Sarvabhauma, thinking this young boy kind of doesn't know what he's gotten himself into. Maybe a crash course in Vedanta could help him, and I see he's accepted an inferior sannyas, so I could upgrade him. He's thinking in these ways about Mahaprabhu. And of course they're famous because Mahaprabhu said, well, my Gurudev said I'm just foolish and cannot really understand philosophy so much. I'm preoccupied taking the holy name of Krishna. And so I can explain Vedanta to you. And he's explaining day after day, and Mahaprabhu is sitting on the other side listening. And Sarvabhauma is wanting that he will like nod or something to show that he's following any particular point. And he's saying, I know this is really deep stuff. If you could just give some indication that you're following what I'm saying, and I could, cater to your particular necessity. And Mahaprabhu says, remember, he's 24, Sarvabhauma's, say, in his 60s or so. And Mahaprabhu says, oh, I understand Vedanta. What are you saying? I can't understand what you're talking about. But I know what Vedanta is. And Sarvabhauma was like, oh, like what audacity. It's an insult. And so, he said, to recover his prestige, he thinks, all right, I'll explain the Atmarama slok from the Bhagavatam. And he gives 9 different levels of interpretation and meaning. So, he said, to regain his prestige, like to impress Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu hears what he says, and then he gives 18 interpretations, not touching upon the 9 given by Sarvabhauma. Then gradually Sarvabhauma is understanding who is sitting before him and playing this 24-year-old, incomparably beautiful sannyasi. And the Lord mercifully reveals to him what is described as his Ishwar Murti, Sadbhuj, the 6-armed form, who was the two, bow, arrow, Ramachandra, previously the flute player, Krsna, now has come as Gauranga. So Ishwar, it's most often rendered as, controller, which of course that's the meaning. But really it also, particularly in Bengali, means God. So when you say he revealed his Ishwar Murti, means he revealed his divinity. He revealed a form that proved his divinity. That Ramachandra, that Krishna, now here he is as Gauranga. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, falls at the feet of the Golden Lord, Gauranga, Mahaprabhu, Gauranga Sundar, and is converted. And this is big news in Puri that his name is Vasudev Sarvabhauma. Sarvabhauma means like in all the world he knows more. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, in all the world he knows more than anyone. It's like that sort of title. That the court pundit of Prataparudra Maharaj has been converted by Mahaprabhu into one of his followers. And not just a big-time follower, immediately writes the Shataka, the 100 slokas in praise of Vairagya Vijanija Bhakti Yoga, and others. And trying to think the other one. Anyway, and he's so mad now for Gauranga that he is like changing Bhagavatam slokas. Sadaya, Mukti Pade Sadaya. He's saying Mukti. He's like Mukunda. Mukunda. Krishna is so beautiful. One meaning Mukunda. Mukti, cool. He gives Mukti, makes Mukti look ugly. So Sarvabhauma is saying to, Bhakti Pade, not Mukti Pad, Bhakti Pade. And Mahaprabhu is saying, Sarvabhauma, calm down, you don't need to start, editing the Bhagavatam. It's already there for those who have the eyes to see. That's how they're seeing it. So then Sarvabhauma is thinking how previously he didn't properly, fully appreciate Ramananda, but suddenly from his new perspective, we're always talking about that, Om Jnana Timirandasya, that new perspective, upanayan, new eyes, a new way of seeing. It means that the terrain is the same, but there is a new way of seeing it or interpreting it. That's why the spiritual project, in this sense, parallels the art. If we want to speak of art in the higher sense, we say, what is the duty of the artist but to give new eyes, a new perspective, a new way of seeing to the viewer? And they're just, dictionary definition kind of thing. Right? But what is that? To see what? We're talking about seeing spiritual substance, recognizing spiritual substance, and not in a generic sense, but in its highest manifestation, its highest representation. If you follow the general spiritual current, and will take you to a particular plane. So from that vantage point, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, realizing that Mahaprabhu is going to go on a tour of South India, and while doing so, he comes in connection with the representatives of all the different schools of thought of that time, and converts them to the superiority of his Krishna conception. They're all, that's in the convert, the conversion aspect of these divine travels. But this is not the case with Ramananda. He's not converting him. He's not revealing his divinity to him. That is known already to Ramananda. So when they meet on the banks of the Godavari, we're told that similar to what is expressed here, there's Mahaprabhu dressed in saffron garments. And it says, not only does it look like the sun is sitting on the bank of the river, dressed in saffron as a sannyasi, but the effulgence of hundreds of suns. That's the description. And again, this means upanayan, a new way of seeing, a sort of spiritual depth. Because just for the sake of argument, we can say, did other people see this? Were they able to have that sort of depth of vision? Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena santaksa deva hridayeshu vilokayanti yang shama sundaram achinti gunaswarupam govinda maripurusham tamaham bhajami. No, with pramic eyes, what does it say there? You know, eyes tinged with the salve of Krishna prem can behold such a thing. When Rupa Goswami at the end, the last line, you know, Sat Chaitanya kame punar pidrishor yashati padam. So each time he describes Mahaprabhu's way, saying, so that Chaitanya kame punar, will he again apidrishor, appear before my eyes? Once more, will I have this vision? What I beheld, will I see that again? But we should remind everyone, these are the eyes of Rupa Goswami. This is the eyes of Kaviraj Goswami, what is presented in Charitamritam, and what has been related can have the depth of vision to see. It appears as though hundreds of suns combined as one, sitting on the banks of the Godavari River, dressed in saffron, the saffron dress of a sannyasi. And this Ramananda Sambad, you know, what does it say in the Sancharja Ramabhida Bhakta Meghe. Bhakta Meg means cloud. So he's being compared to a cloud and saying the Bhakti Siddhanta Chayamritani, and the ocean of Bhakti Siddhanta, there's so many jewels and gems in the form of, you know, you can say slokas, divine poetry. It's sound representation of the highest aspect of the Supreme Absolute. In the case of Mahaprabhu and Krishna. So I'm saying that ocean, a cloud has been generated from that ocean, and that is Ramananda. And then he's raining these Siddhantic gems back on the ocean. So when Mahaprabhu will praise him, Ramananda will say, you're praising me, but it's like a musician praising the instrument that he's playing for making that sound. Saying, you're causing me to say these things. But again, we should say that is the humility expressed by the devotee, but it is not any man in the street the Lord picks to express these things. It has to deal with capacity. Who is Ramananda? Is Vishaka Saki from Krishna Lila, descended into Gaur Lila as Ramananda. It is Ramananda Roy who, together with Swarup Damodar, will be in the Gangbir in the last 12 years of Mahaprabhu's manifest pastimes, supplying songs, slokas, reading from the book, what is it called? Jagannath Ballabha Natak. So what is Mahaprabhu repeatedly relishing, diving deep into reality, plunging the depths of Mahabhav, and reading Gita Govinda, Krishna Karnamritam, which Guru says, Krishna nectar for the ear, right? Jagannath Ballabha Natak of Ramananda, the songs of Chandidas and Vidyapati. Right? These things are given prominence. And as we mentioned previously, and what is the zenith point is the so-called Uddhava Darshan. Right? When, as we were telling about Paramananda Puri, that Uddhava Darshan means when Uddhava's delivering his message to Radharani and Brajagopis to assuage the separation they're feeling in their hearts, Krishna sent Uddhava as a messenger, and at that time of his delivering the message, Srimati Radharani is in her divine madness, what becomes known as the Brahma Gita. Right? So that Ramananda, right? So he's and say about self-oblivion is not self-annihilation. Self-oblivion means so wholly given over to the other that there's, in one sense, no discernible difference, yet retaining individual identity. Okay? That's why when Rupa Goswami says, Shri Krishna Karshini Chasa, describing the power and the qualities, characteristics of Krishna Bhakti Rasa, devotion, he's saying, the infinite comes under the control of the finite. As Krishna, by definition, is all attractive, everyone being drawn to the absolute center, the central conception of the infinite, the human-like. Krishna Rajateka Kela Sarvatam Naralila Naravaputahara Swarup Gopavesh Venukar Navakishore Naravar Naralila Hoy Anurup. So that it's Jiva Goswami says Sarvasat Guna Vishishta. I forgot the other word. But he's saying that on account of his qualities, automatically one wants to offer themselves in service. Right? It is being irresistibly drawn. Ahoy tuki pratyata, sarvasat guna vishishta. That automatically, irresistibly, one is being drawn in attraction. Because the first, Prabhupada would render it causeless and uninterrupted. Right? This is also true. There are different ways of interpreting. But the first time I heard Guru Maharaj say irresistible, because he was saying it like with a Bengali accent, irresistible, When I hear this tape, I cringe because I'm going, are you saying irregisterable? Or he's going irresistible, And Guru Maharaj, he got annoyed. He's like, irresistible. And I was like, all right. So it made an impression on me. So then I think, oh, maybe that's why. So that it would make this indelible impression upon me that it's irresistible. Ahoy tukiya pratyatam. It's causeless and irresistible. Krishna is irresistible. It's not like the people are being whipped to, and to forced labor and calling it devotion. No, Krishna is irresistible. To the point where, the devotees may enjoy Krishna walking all over them. Literally and metaphorically as well as literally. Asli seva parvatam panastamam adarshanam maratam karotuva. And what is key there? Adarshanam. What is the real test of Krishna consciousness? In the absence of Krishna, what do? That verse that we're only three understand, Madhavendra Puri, Mahaprabhu, Radharani herself. But Mahaprabhu means also Rupanuga line. So Gurudev Maharaj explained to me, and what could I say? And he said, I'm not telling. Yes, Maharaj. But just before he left, he said, but I'll tell you two things. He said it's in Deen and Doya. Those are the two, Deen and Doya. Deen, the Fa, and Doya, who is merciful. So as Gurudev would sometimes say, only two things we know for certain, is that we are fallen, like that we're totally convinced of and understand fully, that we are fallen, and that Krishna is merciful to the fallen, so we have some hope. He put it like that succinctly. Saying these two things we know. Right? So, to Deen, Doya, that he is merciful. And so, one thing that's being expressed in that prayer, in the absence of you, how will we go on? What will we do? When Guru Maharaj talks about after the disappearance of Sri Guru, and saying the real test of the disciple comes, he said, whether I am, a disciple in name or a real disciple, can you stand? How we stand in the absence of Sri Guru. We know, being around Srila Gurudev, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, by their devotional, force field, they're keeping everyone propped up. Right? In various degrees of devotional consideration. But really, and then in the absence, then what happens? So sometimes Guru Maharaj say, in separation, by affection's force will be drawn toward them in that plane in which they dwell, which is reality, the subjective world. But this point about adarshanam, Krishna not revealing himself, not showing himself, or concealing himself, or making himself absent. What are we told there? It's from no less than Srimati Radharani herself. She's saying, he's unconditionally my Lord. It's not based upon I do something and then he has to reciprocate that. Or, the Guru Maharaj put it this way, what was supposed to come to me is going to another. I mentioned when Srila Gurudev, Prabhupada said about Srila Govinda Maharaj, he said, you are a transcendental humorist. And he said, people are not so much interested in philosophy. He said, but you're giving philosophy, but in a humorous way that's appealing to people. So he said, you have a great future. He read this article, what's it called, Choler Pate, that Gurudev wrote for Gaudiya Darshan so many years ago. But so Prabhupada really liked that. And so he, through humor, he's sometimes revealing something very profound and high. And so we know his diet was restricted in the final years, and still, the Bengali cook, they like to cook so many things. They cannot not cook many different things. And sometimes they're have the good fortune to take prasad with Gurudev. They're bringing things and giving to us that he's not getting because of his health. And really, he does not speak while taking prasadam. But this one day, he starts singing this song, but in a very melodramatic way. And I was saying, so I say, Maharaj, what is that song you're singing? And he goes, oh Maharaj, Radharani is very unhappy. And I'm like, why is she unhappy? And you think, because Krishna, not only is Krishna going to the house of another gopi, but he's going through her courtyard so that she can see that he's going to the house of another gopi. He's very unhappy. And what he means is, they're making this prasadam, and it would be one thing if in some kind of hidden way they put it on, and he didn't see that. See, but they're bringing it in front of him and then putting it on our plate. That was too much for him to bear. But for a moment, we get a glimpse into the ecstatic, emotional interior of a Mahabhagavata. Some simple thing like that. He's singing a very high song about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And simultaneously, there's an element of humor for us, but he's teaching us something profound. And I thought, at that time and some other times, when I read something by Raghunath Das Goswami and saw this kind of clever wordplay from the Braja Gopis, and I was saying, like, it's inconceivably wonderful and delightful, but I was saying, like, I've heard something like this. I was saying, where? And from Srila Gurudev. Then I realized, so he has the capacity to serve in that plane. Anyway, that's a very high thing to say, but very true. So when Ramananda, so Ramananda's telling, Mahaprabhu's praising Ramananda for what's coming out of him. Ramananda's praising Mahaprabhu for using him, allowing him to serve in that way. And that's why I was connecting the last verse, saying, Asli Shiva Parvatam Panas Adarshana Marvata Yata Ta Va Vadadantu Lampat. That. It's there. But in Shikshastakam, Radharani has to always win. She's saying, if that is what makes Krishna happy, then that is my happiness. And she can say that and mean it. And it's in the Antya Lila, toward the very end, that story of the, alluded to, the Brahmin who is attracted by the beauty of this famous prostitute named Laksha Hira. Remember the dog in Dum Dum Park? Hira means diamond, because it had a white diamond on it. Laksha Hira means 1,000 diamonds, like 1,000 shining diamonds. So we thought, this woman, that was her namesake, right? Like 100,000 diamond ray. Right? You know. And this Brahmin observing her, and he's a poor Brahmin, he's married, and awakens some lusty desire in him, but he can't afford 100,000 diamond prostitute. So his wife, observing that, she takes up service in the house of the prostitute. And that Laksha Hira is so satisfied with her service, say, I don't think I'm, and you don't want any, isn't there something that I can do for you to give me? And say, my husband. And she explains the situation. And so we're told that Laksha Hira, the husband, is brought, and before the liaison, he's served, they're offered two things. One is on silver plates, meat, intoxication, all these things. And then on very plain plates, sattvic food. And she says to him, I'm the meat, wine, and stuff on the silver plate, and your wife is purest of the pure. And then he realizes, what have I done? And, but this example is given to say, she thought, if this is what will please him, then I'm prepared to do that. Right? Guru is extracting that from the last verse of the Shikshastakam. So the devotee is offering themselves in service. But here, what is that service? To instruct That is what is so mysterious. Swabhaktebhya sudham nijabhajana mudram upadisham. How wonderful the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. The devotees are doing the instruction. Like I mentioned Shiksashtakam, we're sometimes told 8 slokas from Mahaprabhu. Sometimes Guru Maharaj will say, Mahaprabhu saying this, saying that, Rupa Goswami collecting it, it's in Upadeshamritam. Or we find one verse here, but like a handful. And where is the vast amount of the instruction coming? From devotees. Right? We can say, well, Mahaprabhu was instructing Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, but very often the devotees, and here Ragamarg Diksha Guru Ramananda, he's giving the instructions. And what does Mahaprabhu tell Pradyumna Misra later? Krishna Katha Ami Janina. He's saying, oh, please tell me about Krishna. He's saying, I don't know Krishna Katha. That is, you have to hear that from a qualified, right? There's Krishna himself. You have to hear from a qualified person about Krishna. I mean, it's charming in that sense when you realize who's saying this. But what he's saying is the truth. Right? So Krishna is saying, I'm not the one to, what does Guru Maharaj say in his verse? Guru Rupa Harim Gauram Radha Ruchi Ruchavratam. When is he in the position of Guru? Radha Ruchi Ruchavratam. When he's enveloped in the heart and halo of Radharani. So what does he tell him to Pradyumna Misra? You go hear from Ramananda. And what do we hear in Ramananda Sambad? Kiba Bipra Kiba Nyasi Shudra Keninoi Ye Krishna Tattva Veta Se Guru Hoy. Mahaprabhu, as the sannyasi, he should be the instructor. Ramananda, by social stratification, is the Shudra. Right? So it should be Mahaprabhu instructing, and he's a householder. So here's the sannyasi, the highest order, and the Varnashram, and Ramananda, and the lower section, Mahaprabhu should be instructing him. And what do you find? The inverse. Mahaprabhu is inquiring from Ramananda and hearing from him. Part of it is, as Mahaprabhu tells Pradyumna Misra, you have to hear from a proper devotee of Krishna. And not only that, if you want to hear these higher, the Sakis, only they can give entrance into this plane. Who is Ramananda? Vishaka Saki. So he's saying, only they can certify you, extend this to you, approve you, and give you entrance into that plane. That's coming from, Radha, Govinda, Milita, combined. This is what is being said. You must go to them. Just like we hear from Gopal Bhatta and Govinda Balabhe Radhe, Parte Tamahang Sada. The way Guru Maharaj puts it in Sri Guru and His Grace, is Krishna saying, oh, you want to have connection with me? That's not my department. Right? For that, Govinda Ballabha, you'll have to go to the Krishna-loving folks. They arrange connections with me. And I thought, oh, like the important people in this world, if you meet them, they'll say, see my secretary. I can't even arrange for us to meet. You have to go through the secretary. She's keeping the schedule. She knows what my agenda is. I don't. And so that, like here, amplify that, ad infinitum, and that's what you're being told. You have to go to hear from them. Right? So, of course, Pradyumna Misra returns to Ramananda, who, according to what he observed the first time, we would think would be utter disqualification. And then we say, what does Mahaprabhu tell him? He says, Ramananda although he appears to be a person moving within this world like everyone else, a human being like everyone, he said he has an aprakrita deho. It looks like a human being, human form, but really it is aprakrita. Aprakrita means not mundane, entirely spiritual. He doesn't have a trace amount of male gaze or exploiting tendency within him. Right? Which is, that was the qualification for Sukadeva to speak the Bhagavatam, that includes the Madhura rasa pastimes of Radha and Krishna and Braja Gopis. That's the qualification. Ramananda to speak on these topics. Vikrididam, Brajavadu, Viridam cha Vishnu, Shradhan Bhuto Anushranayad. Hear from whom? Have faith, and your faith will develop properly when you hear from whom? Bhakti param bhagavati pratilabdhikamam hridrogam ashu api hinoti achirena dhira. They are dhira. Shiva is dhira. Sukadeva is dhira. Ramananda is dhira. Right. Not a trace amount of exploiting tendency, not even a remote, an atomic particle of male gaze. So, hearing from Kaviraj Goswami introduces that chapter saying, so the cloud, Bhakta Mege, the cloud Ramananda rose from the ocean of Bhakti Siddhanta, meaning Mahaprabhu, and then rained all these things, these gems, back on the ocean. And so when they have their discussion, Mahaprabhu is asking Ramananda that, how shall people proceed in this world? Quote scriptures and tell us what people should do to come out, transition from the mundane, objective world and transition into Vaikuntha. And Ramananda suggests Varnashram as a system for organizing society so it can march out of the mundane toward the Vaikuntha world. Mahaprabhu says, Iho Bahya, that's external, Agekahoar. Then he's even quoting verses from the Bhagavad Gita, and they're being dismissed by Mahaprabhu. Being dismissed by Krishna, the speaker of Bhagavad Gita. If we can digest that. And so, one by one, Ramananda showing what Guru Maharaj liked about this, is then he gets everything from there. When I asked Gurudev once, after listening to Guru Maharaj once, I thought, I've never seen him read anything, but Guru Maharaj was what they call legally blind. Even though he had some glasses, he can barely see. And he'd have Hari Charan Prabhu or Gurudev read him the newspaper or like that. And so I thought, does he ever read any, books, spiritual books like that? And first Gurudev said, no. He said, oh, one thing. He said, every now and then he calls me in to go over the Ramananda Samvad. That he likes to hear. He's committed most of it to memory, to heart. Right? When he would say his ontological method, everything comes streaming out of there for Guru Maharaj. So Saraswati Thakur at one point changed his name to Ramananda Das in recognition of this special extracting capacity he had with regard to Ramananda Samvad. And so everything being dismissed as external, Iho Baha, Age Kahoar, even Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na Sochati na Kankshati, Samak Sarveshu Bhuteshu, Mad Bhaktim Labate Param Guru. Then you're at the door, but not have crossed the threshold to go inside. Many things. Then finally at last he says, Gyane Prayasamurapasa Namanta Eva. Stop trying to ascertain divinity with your intellect, your mind and your intellect, what is rational thought. Right? As Guru Maharaj would say, the sum total of the finite is never equal to the infinite. Right? The infinite can make itself known to the finite. When the man challenged Guru Maharaj and said, if the finite can know the infinite, it's not infinite. And Guru Maharaj responded by saying, if the infinite cannot make itself known to the finite, is not infinite. And therein lies the basis of all theistic cultivation. To accept, this is the first principle that must be accepted, is that, as Rupa Goswami said, quoting Padma Purana, atak Shri Krishna namadi nabhavye grahyam indriye. The name of Krishna, the form of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna are beyond the grasp of the mind, intellect, and senses. And then we should think, like, then what are we doing? The Hrishikesh people, the Govinda people. Right? Then wait for the second half. Sevan mukhe hijavado shayame risportida. Seva is the current that brings illumination. The apparatus is secondary, the external aspect. Right? The namakar bahiroi bhatanamu kabunoi. Jagadananda Pandit, the namakar, the syllables of the holy name, he didn't say, it's not the holy name. The way Guru Maharaj says, it's never the holy name. It's the current that's infused. Like Guru Maharaj once said, what is the current of the Krishna Nam of Yashoda? Right? What is the current of the Krishna Nam of Srimati Radharani? So the current that brings illumination. So, and the infinite descending, not that we're taking Krishna Nam and listening to that sound, but and purifying ourselves by the Krishna Nam that we're vibrating. Guru Maharaj does not support that idea. We're quoting Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Sharanagati saying, the holy name, divine sound, descends in the heart. Right? And by the affection, love and affection in the heart is pushed to the tongue, and then moves the tongue to vibrate the name of Krishna. And what does Rupa Goswami say? Tunde tandavani ritim batanute tundavali labdiye karna kroda kadambini gadayate kāmārbuda-madhura-dhāmojjvala-tanur. And when that sort of Krishna Nam is there, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's words are hridaya bole, mean the power of heart. Then he's saying, one tongue is insufficient to relish the nectar of Krishna Nam, and two ears are insufficient to capture the sweetness of the sound of Krishna's name. The heart will aspire to have millions of ears, millions of tongues. To see the divine form, the heart aspires to have millions of eyes. That's how beautiful Krishna is. Right? That two eyes are insufficient to appreciate his beauty. Right? Those sort of things. That is what is being expressed by Rupa Goswami there. So, why did I make that point? Connected to, Jnane Prayasam, the infinite making itself known to the finite. The infinite can come down and reveal himself. Right? Shri Krishna Karshini Chasa. Although Krishna is all attractive, everyone is being irresistibly drawn in love and affection and offering themselves in service to the central conception of the infinite, right? The golden mean of the infinite, Krishna. reality of the beautiful. That Krishna, Rupa Goswami is saying, Shri Krishna Karshini. Karsh means attraction. Krishna is drawn in attraction to a drop of Krishna Bhakti Rasa in the heart of even a finite living being. That is enough to capture Krishna. Right? So, when he says, Jnane prayasamudapasana eva jivanti sanmukharita, satmukharita, hear from the mouths of the Krishna-loving devotees, bhavadiya vartam, stanestita shrutikatam tanuvan manobhir. Whatever your position is, begin hearing from Krishna's agent. Then through sound, nam, then the form of Krishna is appearing with particular qualities, pastimes, etc. When Ramananda suggests this, remember everything else has been dismissed up to this point. Varnashram system, slokas from the Bhagavad Gita. When he says this, give up trying to understand him with your mind and intellect. Let the infinite reveal himself to you through his agent, the Krishna-loving person. Right? And regardless of your circumstance, stanestita, just hear from them. And if you can appreciate that, Mahaprabhu said, Iho hoy, that I accept. That is your first contact with reality. And as Guru Maharaj said, and that means, he said, for those who know this substance, today or tomorrow, you're finished. They know what will happen. It's like when, he would say, when you get a particular doctor, you're suffering from a particular disease, and you get this, and people say, like, oh, who are you being treated by? And you go, oh, by doctor such and such. They go, oh, consider yourself cured. Right? You're getting that quality of treatment. So when Mahaprabhu hears, oh, you'll hear a drop of this divine nectarine substance from a qualified agent, yes, that I accept. And because Guru said that it will spread its influence, it will necessarily take one to a particular domain. And we mentioned earlier the Brahma Gita. That verse is there. Yad anucharita lila karna piyusha viprut. Piyush means nectar. Sakrita danvat, viduta danvat, dharma vinashta. Saparigriha kutumbum dinam, there's the word, dinam utsrija. Bahuva vihanga bhikkhu charjam charanti. Radharani is saying, a drop of this Krishna nectar, she comes to give the evidence. A drop of this divine substance, Krishna karnamritam, Krishna nectar for the ear. If one drop of, you get a drop of that on your heart, you're finished. Your life is ruined. She's saying in that way, I mean, your material existence is finished. Today or tomorrow, it must happen. That is the power of a drop of Krishna Katha. Tava Kathamritam, Katha Amritam, Tapta Jivanam Kavibir Iditam. Everything's Kalmasha Apaham, Srimad Atatam. Then the heart filled with unparalleled wealth. Because why? Krishna is, the name of Krishna is no less than Krishna himself. Srimad Atatam, Sravana Mangalam. Hearing about him is the beginning of all auspiciousness in life, like that. Stanestita Shrutikata, same thing Mahaprabhu is saying. Here is appearing again, and Gopi Gita. Srimad Atatam, Bhuvi Grananti Te Burida Jana. And those who are distributing this nectarine substance, which is the cure for our suffering condition, they're the real, I'm going to say, altruists, humanitarians, welfare workers, anything else in the world. They're the people who are really doing something substantial. So Saraswati Thakur said, Krishna katat durbhika. I don't recognize a shortage of anything in the world. There's no famine, really, truly, of anything in this world. One thing, Krishna Katha. Right? So what did Guru Maharaj write about him? Kripaya Hari Kirtana Murti Dharam. He's the Hari Kirtan Murti. To the point of exhaustion, always speaking about Krishna. Right? Addicted to speaking about Krishna, engaging in Krishna Katha, right? As the gopis do. And they're saying, that is how we get relief from this. Our suffering is on account of separation from Krishna. Your suffering is on account of separation from Krishna. Right? But there, the difference being one based on forgetfulness and one based on remembrance. So when it is suggested to them at times like to forget about Krishna, and they have to say, we tried, but we cannot. We cannot forget Krishna for a moment. We've tried, but we've never been able to do that for even one moment. Right? So and you'd say the cause of the suffering is similar, and the cure is the same, which is to hear about Krishna. That is the medicine for the heart disease that we're suffering from. Nivritatar shairopagiyamanat bhavoshidatsrota manobiramat abiram. Hear that? Abiramat means beautiful. That remember, it's literal and metaphorical. That Parikshit Maharaj, what is the cause of his predicament? Thirst for the mundane, right? Mundane thirst. I'm going to say it's literal. We know that it's Yogamaya, it's a play, he's playing this part. But if we can say thirst, mundane thirst, and then we'll invert it and say thirst for the mundane. That's what it represents to us. That is our hridrogam, heart disease. So that happens in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam. And then what do we hear? And this is in the beginning of the 10th canto. Nivritarsh, thirst. Nivritarshayar upagiyamanad bhavoshidatsrota manobiramat. He's fasting, also not drinking or eating anything, and he's saying, I'm not thirsty. It was his thirst for the mundane that got him in this predicament. And now he's saying, I'm not thirsty, I have no mundane thirst, and in fact, I'm just relishing I'm drinking the nectar through my ears of what you're presenting to me, your speech. And he's saying, and that is the cure for the thirst for the mundane. We come all the way from the first canto to the 10th. What is the cure for that thirst for the mundane? Hearing about Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna, Krishna Lila. And so he says, and what is so wonderful, bhava oshud, bhava, and this context means material existence. So he's saying it's the cure for material existence. And he said, and normally, medicine is not tasteful. Right? We know so many times when you're given something, you go, this is horrible. And they go, oh, it's good for you, it's medicine, it's, So he's saying, so normally it's not bhavoshidaч shrotra mano biramat. So he's saying, this hearing for the mind, it's beautiful and sweet and tasteful. So the medicine that is the cure is so delightful. So, that is what is accepted by Mahaprabhu. And of course, just to conclude this here, that then he's very excited and asks him to speak about devotion, and then rasa from Shanta Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhur, etc. And it goes about Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Leela Tattva, all these different things. And madly Ramananda is speaking, and he notices that whom he had seen, with the glowing saffron, the sannyasi with the glowing saffron garments, the sun sitting, as if the sun was sitting before him, he doesn't see anymore. So, because he was so madly engaged in Krishna Katha, then he noticed that he's saying, I don't see a sannyasi anymore. I'm seeing Krishna. And Mahaprabhu saying, oh, we have heard of the Maha-Bhagavata. How fortunate we are to be in your presence. The Maha-Bhagavata, wherever they cast their glance, they see Krishna. So when you see me, you're also seeing Krishna. Oh, how fortunate I am to be seen by you in that way. And Ramananda is saying, don't tease me like that. It's Krishna telling him this. That you're a Maha-Bhagavata and see Krishna everywhere and everything. You look at me, you see Krishna also. And Ramananda said, no, my Lord, not like that. He said, that's not all. He said, I see the Shyama Gopa Roop, the Shyama Sundar, and the Gopa, cowherd boy form. But that's not all I'm seeing. I see the golden form of a girl has enveloped him. What is that? And Mahaprabhu saying in the line of Premanjana Charita Bhakti, I can't conceal myself from your loving eye. Right? Remember, what he revealed to Sarvabhauma Ishwarmurti, his divinity, not so as Ramananda. He's saying, I can't hide from you. I cannot conceal myself from your devotional eye. Right? And what you see is true. What you're seeing is Rasaraj, Krishna, Mahabhav, Swarupini, Radha Thakurani, combined as one. And Guru Maharaj said, see how they mingle. And with that, Ramananda fainted. Right? And when he awoke, there was the sannyasi sitting before him in the saffron garments, like the sun on the banks of the Godavari River. Just to finish this. Hiranya, like the luster of the sun glaze. The dress has imbibed the glaze of his lustrous body. In this way we find him. Hiranyanam Lakshmi Varan Abhivavan Angika Rucha. The golden color. If we go to see Hiranyanam Lakshmi Varan Abhivavan, all the high quality gold, they've got their luster and beauty. That has been subdued by his color and radiance. Such color we find. The gold, and this is classic Guru Maharaj, the good gold, not this tempered bad gold, but good gold of the highest type, and that ray has been subdued by his ray. And so if you've ever seen gold, sometimes it loses its luster. So what they would do, they break it a little bit, and then they show you, and it's like almost like a blinding, this incredible coruscating flash, golden luster that you'll see. And he's saying here, what is that? That gold of the highest type and the ray that comes from it has been subdued by his ray. Hiranyanam Lakshmi Baran Abhibhavang Angika Rucha. Anga Rucha. Defeating the luster of so many golds of different high types, that has been defeated by his luster. Such was the glaze of his body. Sat Chaitanya Kame Punar Abhidashor Yashati Vadam. Should I be fortunate enough to have a look of that figure with these eyes once more? Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Rupa Goswami Padanam. Shri Chaitanyashtakam. Hari Harai Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namo. Hari Harai Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namo. Yadavaya Madhavaya Kesavaya Namo. Gopal Govinda Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Echai Gochai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaha Hoite Vignanash Abhishta Puran. Echai Gochai Jarmui Tarodas. Kansavada Padarinu Mora Panchagras. Kandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas. Janame Janame More Abhilas. Echai Goshai Jabe Praje Koilovas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakar. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Bhajai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyan. Harinam Sankirtan Kohe Narottamada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paribrajaka Acharya Sathar Sada Shri Srimad Shri Bhakti Sudhir Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Shri Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Sabarikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Jiu Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Sundar Maha Jai Sabarikar Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Sundar Jiu Ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Go Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Govinda Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai, Shri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai, Ganga Devi, Jamuna Devi, Bhakti Devi, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Om Vishnupad Vishvavaranya Srilayasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Brinda Ki Jai, Jai Srila Bhakti Bimalava Dut Maharaj Ki Jai, Sannyasi Brinda Ki Jai, Jai Shri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi Ki Jai, Seva Brinda Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai, Nitai Go Premanande. Hare Krishna.
Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
And Maharaj,
Yes.
Dandavats from Shripad Vigrahanyasi Maharaj.
Jai Sripad Bhakti Sudhir Maharaj Ki
Jai. Bhakta Bandhu Prabhu,
Dhanam.
Dhanjai Prabhu Rasha, Gauranga Prabhu, Kolkata.
Who?
Gauranga Prabhu, Kolkata.
In Kolkata? Anyone named Gauranga in Kolkata is a friend of mine.
Kāmārbuda Prabhu,
Hare
rasananda
Krishna.
Prabhu Sochi, Krishna Kanti Didi USA, Madhavi Didi and Atula Krishna Prabhu Hungary, Savarupa Devdasi Mexico, Tapanandini Didi, Marion Rodriguez, Banavi Didi Italy,
Hare Krishna.
Anna Yar, and Rameshwari Prabhu USA. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, so
Hare Krishna.
illuminating. Thank you for sharing this nectar with all of us. And
Hare Krishna.
Dandavats from Ajita Krishna and Siberian Bhakti.
All made possible by Srila Prabhupada. Hare
Jai.
Krishna. Yes. Hare Krishna. Jai Chaitanya Nitai Prabhu in Vrindavan, Hare Krishna. Rasananda and Sochi Dandavat, Krishna Mohini Didi Dandavat, Kum Kum Didi Dandavat, Prittu Prabhu and Lakta, I assume. Right? And that looks like by the deities. I don't know, Hare Krishna. Supriya in China, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Jai Sripad Bhakti Asrat Dandi Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Brajalatika Didi and Orsk in Russia, Dandavat. Gauranataraj Prabhu in Brazil, Dandavat. Jai Sripad Bhakti Sevan Rishikesh Maharaj.
Jai.
And Nabazia with Yashodanandan Prabhu and, is that Prabhu?
I don't know.
All right, and Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Sulakshana Didi here, Maheswari and Janvi Didi. Janvi's up and about. Right? She's cured, walking around on Padarasta. The parikrama. Parikrama is the best sort of exercise. I think Vrajamandal parikrama. Surupa. She's still in China. There's Supriya, and then there is Surupa. Hey Krishna. Hi. Can she hear me? Sulakshana, tell her I'm speaking to her. Hare Krishna. Anindita and Sochi. Oh, now she says, see, I'm talking to you. She's at the school, maybe. Hare Krishna. Sushmita's school. Yeah. Anindita and Sochi, Dandavat, Jivana and Krasnodar. Tomsk. There's Ajita, Ekadashi, Dinanath and Damayanti, Dandavat to the Tomsk Bhakta Vrinda. Anjali in Ukraine, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Parama Bhakti Didi in Brazil, Dandavat. Abhiram Prabhu, Dandavat. Bhanavi Didi in Roma, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Gokula Tarani Didi and Abhazia, Dandavat. Ananta Krishna Prabhu in Russia, Dandavat. Gaurachandra Prabhu and Nakhodka. Okay, Hare Krishna. Carrying the torch. Hare Krishna. Ananta Shesh Prabhu in Spain, Dandavat Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Anyone? Ira in Russia. You know, Ira is the name of the goddess of Saraswati. Praneshri Didi, Dandavat. Vilasundar Prabhu in Kiev, Dandavat. Lakshman and Dandavat. Harinam Ananda. Hare Krishna. And Damodar Das, Nityananda is here. Indumukhi in China. She's about to give birth. Any day now. Rasananda Sochi, Ananta Krishna. Madhavi, Lata from Chandrakanti in China. Kamalini. Rasananda Prabhu. Lakshmi Priya. Ajitasha. Parmananda Prabhu at the Govinda Parm. Ajita again in Tomsk. All right. Banchakalpa Drivyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namo. There's Rasananda. Dandavat. Hare Krishna. You listen. Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki jai.